There are lots of different tools for all the aspects in the hobby, but there's only really one thing that for me needs replacing regularly at a cost that can make me wince. Brushes. Alongside my airbrush, there's nothing more important to me in my process than the bristled brush. For a long time, I've been looking at what I can do to extend the life of my brushes, as well as look for lower cost alternatives to my favourite series of brushes, the Artis Opus Series S. Recently, I wanted to clear up an occasionally discussed dispute and get rid of any confusion around the subject of who makes the brushes for which company, and so I made contact with the good people at Rosemary & Co. directly by phone during a live stream. They were kind enough to send me a sample Series 33 size 4, which was checked by Rosemary herself, and I was able to find out the truth behind the Series S by Artis Opus along with their other brushes, plus one other tidbit of info on another brand of miniatures brushes. I'll be telling all on that in this week's video and what I learnt about GW brush origins whilst working in the factory. We'll be talking brushes in general, and I'll go through my brush care routine that kept me on one brush for 1 year, so you can do the same. Plus, a big offer I'll be making to you at the end. I'm Tom. People on the internet call me MadCat. Welcome to the channel of TheMiniMadCat. This video is not sponsored. I told Rosemary & Co about my transparent approach and presented as an interested party partaking in investigative journalism. My opinions herein are, as usual, and as I intend for them to always be, brutally honest, educational and informative. Hopefully, I do a funny whilst we're at it. Pointy tip, not too small. If I'm going to talk brushes as a mini painter, the starting point, no pun intended, is the size and point of your brush. Over the years, I've gradually moved up in brush size, originally starting with 00s and 1s. I remember considering 2s large like so many people do. Now I use a size 4 and recommend to people to use at least a size 2 or larger when they're painting miniatures most of the time. It may seem counterintuitive that you get more control with a 2, 3 or 4, but I'm confident if you've not tried moving up from 0s and 1s, that for me it was revelatory and you should give it a go. The key to executing micro details like light reflections in eyes or fine lines is having a nice point to the brush, like I said. Keeping the brush moist, not wet, will keep that nice tip when you're using it. And not letting paint dry on the hairs or up in the ferrule by a rigorous cleaning procedure when you finish should keep your brush pointy for as long as possible. In a moment, I'll go over my brush care routine, which helped me workhorse one brush for most of last year, the products I use to preserve them and extend their lives, and give you an interesting proposal relating to this. Regarding the conversation and debate on who is making whose brushes and whether one brush is a straight copy of another in the mini world, addressing this myth was quite satisfying for me. I love diving down a rabbit hole, but I like a nice, succinct and simple explanation even more. And as I said, I spoke with a few different people at Rosemary & Co and would like to thank Fern, Sylvia, Jane and Rosemary herself for helping my understanding out, and especially for sending me out this brush to try it out. The myth I've heard once or twice bandied around is that Artis Opus Series S brushes are just Series 22s by Rosemary & Co, or they're the exact same brush as a Series 33 by Rosemary & Co. Rosemary & Co 22s, when I was in my size 2 period around 5 years ago, they were my workhorses. And when I switched to Artis Opus, I found that there was a big difference. I'll be explaining the difference in a moment. But I'd never tried Series 33s, so I asked very politely and a little persistently if they would send me out one, and they did. I've gotten used to it pretty extensively, alongside my Artis Opus Series S size 4, and I feel I can confirm without any doubt that exactly what I was told by the wonderful staff is the truth of it. in combination with what I'd heard from my friend Jimmy the Brush. Byron, who established Artis Opus, approached Rosemary & Co. back in 2017, I think it was, with the aim of working with them to build some unique brushes built for miniature painters. They got together and he, using specifically altered combinations of their brushes, settled on the Series S and Series M, and a little later down the line, after a hugely successful launch, the Series D. The Series S is, as I was told, a combination of the Rosemary & Co. Series 22 and Series 33, with some tweaks which Byron himself requested after extensive testing. There's no doubt in my mind this is the case. The difference may be extremely subtle to most, but to me it became very clear that there was one. It's hard to describe, but the one thing, the main thing I would say, is it's a little easier to do dots with the Series S, like stippling, and maybe a little easier to do fine lines with the Rosemary & Co. 33, extended fine lines, which makes sense. When I hold this Artis Opus S4 up against the closest size match in the Series 22 and 33s, pictured in the Rosemary & Co. catalogue, conveniently the actual size of the brushes, the length of the very end of the tip is just a little bit shorter on the S. The tip ends and tapers just a little quicker. The belly's a little different. It bulges a little earlier and maybe a little more as it comes out of the ferrule, then starts a more gradual taper to the point as a result. I could go into the clever choice by Byron in terms of the physics I've guessed he's taking advantage of with surface tension and flow with this slight design difference. Sadly, I don't have the time or budget for this kind of animation that I'd want to use to help explain it easily. So join the patrons. Probably a bit of a weak excuse. I could just try.
A few denigrating moments later.
And after painting with them all, it appears to me on top of all of that the Artis Opus Series S has a slightly higher quality requirement on the sable hairs that they use, which is what was suggested to me by Jimmy. It's only a slight difference, but at the scale we work at as miniature painters, those slight differences can be noticed. It doesn't seem at all outrageous to hypothesize that Byron pays a premium for the very best sable hairs that Rosemary & Co. can acquire. And that's a big reason why we as customers pay more for an Artis Opus brush. It's also got a shorter handle, which is unrelated to price differential. It's just an observation on the design choice tailored to us miniature painters. Special Russian ferret hairs are much more expensive than wood, pound for pound, so it's fine. Rosemary & Co. offer the choice between a short or longer handle choice, but the latter would just poke our eyes out.
Phew, glasses.
Most brush manufacturers will use gum arabic and a cap to preserve the shape of the brush for shipping. I guess they all do. And I'm completely familiar with washing that out before I first get to use a brush. It took quite a bit of rinsing to clear it out of this substantial number 4, which is a little bigger than the Opus S4. And at first, it splayed out all over the place. I was very worried somehow I'd gotten a dud, but it was because I hadn't quite gotten all the gum arabic out and the bristles were sticking together in the belly. Since then, it's performed wonderfully, though I can see myself moving between it and my Opus. That being said, with the money as it is, I'll be buying a Series 33 in size 3 next, which will be the first time I've moved down in brush size, getting a 33 size 3. And not because I think it's a better permanent move, but because the Opus Series S sizes are a little smaller than the 33s, and a 33 size 3 looks like the closest match to the Opus S4, which I love. The extra tidbit I got was that Rosemary & Co. also proudly make Element Games brushes, which explains why they are also a solid range. When I worked at Games Workshop, rumours abound that Winsor & Newton made their brushes, but if that was true, it wasn't something that Winsor & Newton and Games Workshop were proud of, which you could think they might. if they did. I tried to see if there was a connection when I was there, but if there was one, they must have labelled the boxes they arrived in under a completely different company name. So I'm pretty sure Winsor & Newton don't make Games Workshop's brushes, despite similarities. Would you be interested in me trying to dig up and confirm the truth of that? Let me know in the comments. I think it's really cool that Rosemary & Co are proud to manufacture the brushes for Element Games and Artis Opus. I think it shows belief in their product, which is well deserved, and I approve of transparency in that way as well. Brush care. So, how do I take care of my brushes? Well, when you order a brush from Rosemary & Co, they include a leaflet on brush care for various mediums, oils, watercolours, acrylics, and more. I threw that away. It's full of great advice, but it speaks more to the traditional artist, as when it talks of brush care with acrylics, it speaks to using artificial bristle brushes, and I rarely use them. I've listened to and learnt from all the painters I've been able to speak to about it over the 7 years that I've been painting, and I've gotten a product I want to launch to help keep your brushes alive for longer. But when it comes to how I treat my brushes to keep them going, there's just 4 simple things. Number 1, don't let the bristles dry during a painting session. Really important, don't let the bristles dry during a painting session. Number 2, when your painting session ends, use soap and distilled water to wash the acrylics out of the bristles. Build up a lather using the brush by pulling it backwards at no more than 45-degree angle with a smooth and delicate twisting motion. Rinse in fresh distilled water and repeat until the lather that you're producing is clear. Make sure to get soap right up into the ferrule. Number 3, don't wash the last bit of soap out. Instead, shape the bristles to the desired point and leave a little throughout the bristle, leaving the brush to dry at least a slightly declining or ideally downward pointing direction. Once completely dried, I replace the protective cap to save them from when I bosh them off the edge of the table like a spoon. Number 4, refresh your paint water before it's thick with rinse. For me, it's usually at the beginning of every session because when I paint, I usually paint for long periods. Then when you rinse out the remaining dried soap at the start of your next session, your brush will be pristine. And there you go, those are the 4 points. I managed to workhorse one Artis Opus size 3 last year, which was a drastic change from my usual wastage rate, which is usually one about every 3 months. However, it wasn't this cleansing practice alone that helped. And that brings me to the final point of the video. I've got a product idea that I've been testing using a prototype for over a year. I'm convinced it's a big part of how I kept that one brush going through the year. I need your help. To get this product off the ground, I need support, both financial and by spreading the word. I need you to share this video and let everyone you know about me. Get them to subscribe physically for... No, I can't say that. Just ask very politely and in a very friendly manner where they think, oh, you're a nice person. You might actually be giving me a good recommendation. I'll go and subscribe to this TheMiniMadCat. We need the numbers to get up so I can launch a successful fundraising campaign. And the longer this doesn't happen, the higher the chance the idea might get pinched by someone. I want to make the product with the most humane and environmentally friendly material. It's not got huge profit margins that way, but it's just a better choice, and I fear a bigger company would make the cost-based decision and choose a harmful material instead. Here's my initial offer. If you join my Patreon for a year at any tier, I will send you 2 either prototypes, like the ones I've been using to keep my brushes going, or you'll be part of the first run from a Kickstarter if things pick up sooner. Patreon memberships start at the low cost of £2, The product will likely be cheaper than that on release, but the product can't be made without support, so I'll include a little gift and certificate of support on top too, if you get one through a Patreon subscription for a year. If you can't do that, like I said, spreading the word about this channel will help hugely towards a successful Kickstarter. Right now, I just don't have the numbers to raise the necessary awareness or the money to pay for marketing and advertising to make something like that successful. With your help, your friends' help, and your friends' friends' help, and the friends of the friends of the friends' friends helping.
A few denigrating moments later.
And your mum, we can make saving our brushes a little better. Available, hopefully, to everyone. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Join the Patreon, spread the word, subscribe, like, comment, get your friends and mum to comment too. Join me in the live streams. Links are all down below. Love you all. I'm the MiniMadCat. Question everything and have fun.